Today, I want to talk industry predictions. I feel like that's so, I think I said this in my email, but it's like everybody's talking about that. Like everybody's doing their predictions, but also like, I think it's like really helpful to do that. And I know I always like to hear people talk about that. So I am going to do the same, even though it is quite basic. I think sometimes we need to give ourselves permission to do the basic things. So that is what we were chatting about today. I feel like we've talked so much recently about how much things kind of shifted in our space in our world. Last year, I did a call for my millionaire makers group on no on like last week. I don't know why I said Monday, I guess because it's Monday. Last week, and we were talking about some of that stuff and how much has changed. Oh, and I also did a call for people who applied for the open coaching spot and didn't get it, and it came up there too. So I feel like there's just been like a lot of conversation about like, man, stuff has really shifted in our space. And so I think like that's really good to normalize it. But we also want to talk about, cool, what do we do with that? Where do we go from here? What's happening going forward? So that's what I want to do today. Hey, Alessia. Hey, Deborah. Thank you guys for being here. And drum roll. Yes. Okay, so I have a few different things that I want to talk about. The first one is these are in no particular order, by the way. I'm just gonna excuse me, kind of dive in whatever direction we go, we go. Um, the first one that I think is interesting, and I think there's like a both and here, so we'll talk about that. But I really think that longer form content is coming back in a sense. And so what I mean by that is I feel like, and I still see this, right? Like if I make a really, really short reel, it will typically perform better, right? Just because like watch time is greater, algorithm pushes that kind of thing. But that doesn't mean it's the best. Does that make sense? Like just because my views will go up if I keep it short, it doesn't mean that that's the best. Um, and so I think what people are wanting is like, yes, we want those like micro wins and those micro nuggets. And like, yes, we still want to give those. But I feel like the pendulum swung so hard the other way to like, nobody has an attention span. Nobody's getting that. So like, I do think we want some stuff that we can dive deep into. So with a few of my clients, we're doing some shifts in terms of like making like some really, really pillar content kind of blogs and running some traffic to that. Hey, Jess. Michelle said, oh, good. As a long-winded human, I need that to come back into my life. So good. I know, me too. So long form in terms of like, do we have some like pillar blog content where people can get like a ton of value from you somewhere if they want to go deeper? And then also on Instagram, like I think most Instagram like experts are definitely saying that videos that is like your original audio and your voice and you just talking are going to be doing better next year and are already doing better. Um, but I think what's important to say about that is you still have to see what your audience is liking, right? Like there's always trends and there's always going to be things to follow, but it's like if you do a bunch of like talking head ones, does your audience like that? Is it great content? Like don't just go do long form content because that's like in style now or whatever, because if it's not great content, it's still not going to perform. Like I think that that's the thing that we always miss kind of is that I feel like people get so jacked up on the algorithm. This is kind of like an offshoot, but I was talking about this in my masterminds too. People get so jacked up on the algorithm and like the algorithm is just there to show you what content is good. Like I see that in my stuff all the time. Like I was actually telling them my mastermind this, but like I had a post I think I did last week at it might have been the week before, but I think it was last week that just like fell so flat. Like, I mean, if you like looked at it compared to everything else, you're like, oh, that one just totally tanked. And I think it would be so easy to be like, did I post at the wrong time? Or like, what happened with the algorithm? Or did this? It was just not a good enough post. Like, that's the truth. Like, that was like my takeaway. It's like, that was not good enough. I need to do better. And that not in like a I suck or pressured way, but just to say like the algorithm will reward great content, you know? And so yes, I think we're trending toward have more personal conversations, share more of your thought leadership, do more than just, lip sync a reel. But also don't do that just for the sake of doing it. Do it when you really have something to say. Do it when you know that your people are really going to like it and latch onto that and listen, or be willing to test it at least. You know what I mean? Do it not going, oh, well, this has to take off because it's X type of content, right? Go, I wonder if my people like this. Let's see what happens, um, and take it from there. Kristen said, I'm so glad you are doing this because obviously I think your opinion is more aligned and valuable in this space for biz owners and integrity. Oh, thank you, Kristen. I appreciate this. Danielle would love your take on the algorithm. So true. Yeah. One of my clients, she said it in one of her reels the other day, but she was basically like, I was teasing her because it was so spicy and so good, but she was like, if you're not getting the reach you want, you need to market better. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like it's that simple, Sarah says sometimes we have to dig deeper than just blaming on the algorithm. Oh my God, totally. And like, I feel like if we exchanged algorithm for like something that shows you what is good content, it gets so much easier. It's not like Oz. Do you know what I mean? I feel like everyone treats the algorithm like it's Oz and it's like behind a curtain and mystical and not understood and all of these things. And it's like, oh no, it just shows you what is good content or not. Like, that's pretty much it. And I'm not saying you could never have a myth. Like certainly some things just do or don't take off. Do you know? And that's okay too. Um, but like that's the exception, not the rule. Like the rule is it shows you what good content is. The exception might be like, oh, that really just didn't pop in the first like X amount of time. And so it didn't really get the traction, but mostly it just shows you that. Deirdre said, I've worked on the algorithm. What Lacey is saying is spot on. Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's cool to like hear it from a different angle. But yeah, it's like, is this good content or not? So anyway, like I do think longer form is important, but I think with that caveat, right? Like don't just get on and talk and like, like not really think about what you're delivering, which I guess is sort of the next prediction or point that I want to bring to this is like, what has changed so much is that content for the sake of content is not the win anymore. Content that is good is the win. And I always like hesitate to say stuff like that because I feel like it can really put us into this kind of like perfectionist trap. But I think there's just such like black and white mentality in our industry where it's either like you just post, be totally messy, just get it out there, or like it all has to be perfect. And like obviously at different stages of your business, you might need to do different things. Like sometimes you might just need to get it out there because that's like your work, but it's probably not going to get you like the best algorithm results. And sometimes you need to like work on making it really, really good, but it doesn't have to be perfect, Deborah says, love this combo. I've seen so much talk about the algorithm blocking people and it hasn't resonated with me to make this see my post type of post. Yeah, totally. Yeah, so much to say there, but agree. Like that reel with the little prancing dog in the Christmas sweater. I LOL'd and then looked at your stats, seemed to do very well. Julie, exactly. That was like a perfect one. Like that just went well. Like it was funny, it was silly, people liked it. Like that was good content in many ways. And so yeah, then it performs well. Like it was kind of that simple, right? I did one today that I think is so funny. And we'll see. Like maybe people will think it's really funny, maybe they won't, but it will just tell me something, Yes, content is good. We as an industry can definitely do better at content. There's so much mediocre content out there that's created just for the sake of filling space. Totally agree with that. And I actually used to be a proponent of that, to be honest with you, because I do think there was a time where that was the thing that was like taking off for people. It was like, it does not have to be perfect. Just put it out there. Just get in the habit. Just get it going. Just show up. And in many ways, like, yes, just show up. But I think because there are so many people showing up and the space is so saturated, it takes more than that for stuff to take off now. And I think we just have to be honest about that. I feel like everyone kind of hates that answer. And I think we just have to be honest about it. Like you have to up your content game. It has to be good. y'all have watched me do that this year. Like that has been an undertaking for me this year to be like, okay, what does it look like to not just like throw repurposed shit out there to Instagram? And the truth is I've gotten a lot better results from that. You know what I mean? Like in terms of reach, engagement, growth, views, all that, like it is all skyrocketed because I was like, I'm gonna like make platform specific content and I'm gonna really put energy into it. So I think that's another point that I will make is platform specific content is it. Again, I think we used to be able to repurpose and it really didn't matter to a certain extent. And now I think like you know how like if you say carousel posted on Facebook, it just like doesn't resonate in the same way. It's like the visual on it is just not there. Um, or vice versa. Like if you see like static image on Instagram, like those just don't do as well anymore. And same, like I wouldn't put my Instagram live on YouTube and expect it to blow up. Like we do put some of our stuff on YouTube, but mostly as like a host as opposed to like expecting results there. And so I think that I've always kind of been a proponent of like do one or two platforms, really go deep on them. But I think that's more important than ever now. And I feel like people get so freaked out about that because they hate having all their eggs in one basket. But the truth is, if you're trying to create like catch fire kind of content for all of these channels, it's going to be really, really difficult to perform well on all of those channels. Like it just is. And again, I think we kind of have to be honest about that instead of pretending like, oh yeah, it's so easy. It's not as easy as it used to be. It's just not. And so getting really focused, getting really strategic, having great content on 1 to 2 platforms is where it's at. Kelsey, I hope I'm saying your name right. I'm so sorry if I'm not. Feel free to correct me. But you said live videos are great too. You do such a good job in the Brilliant podcast where you have real conversations with real people. Connection is key now. It's so hard to find real connection online. So if you do it well, you'll get results and help more people. Well, I could not agree more. And you just took one of my points. So we will talk about that. But I totally think that's true. I mean, it's like it's sort of like the simplification of the algorithm, how we were talking about like algorithm is just, is it good content? Where all of the strategy is just like, is it a connection point with your people? Like, I think you're spot on there. Totally off topic. Read this later. Oh, read this later. Okay, well, I'm going to read it now. I've been watching the MSU marathon the last few days, and it feels so bizarre to see you talk live. I've gotten so used to hearing your voice. That's so funny. Aw, thank you so much for watching that. That means so much to me. But yeah, I think great content, platform specific content. Okay, which brings me to the next point that Kelsey made, which is like connection is everything. Which I think like I've always believed relationships are everything, don't get me wrong, but I think more so now than ever. I feel like you could almost like get away with it before in a way that you kind of can't now. Like that idea of like people bang down my door and buy from me without ever speaking to me. I feel like those days are numbered or over, to be honest. I think relationships, DMs, conversations, multiple touch points, like that's what is moving the needle forward on stuff. And I don't even just mean for people with small audience, newer business, whatever. I mean like my clients at multiple 7 figures are in the DMs with people because that's what's moving the needle. I'm in a mastermind with lots of other successful 7-figure business owners. They're doing that. Like, yes, we might be using ManyChat and leveraging different things, but like it's not just that. And I think people kind of like want to buy into the dream that like it takes no work. And I don't think that's true, or it used to be true for a very short period of time. People realized how much that did not get them what they wanted. And so it shifted. But at the end of the day, like we want to buy from real people who engage with us like they're real people. Again, it doesn't mean we can't leverage ManyChat, have funnels, things like that. But the idea of being totally unreachable, untouchable, and like, unavailable in every way to your audience and potential clients just isn't it. And I think that like the pedestaling of that is totally gone. I really think that like, you know, there used to be a time in our industry where it was like the more untouchable you could be, it was almost like the more desirable it was. And I just do not think people are interacting like that anymore at all. I think they want to, this doesn't mean they have to get on a sales call every time, but they want to be able to like talk to you or engage with you or ask a quick question without it being this like massive burden or these things where they have to jump through 15 hoops to do it, because it tells them what it will be like in your programs to a certain extent, right? Like, I think that's true. If I am not willing to talk to you in any way, shape, or form in the DMs, like, what is it like when we work together? I can kind of make some assumptions, you know? So I really think that like being willing to speak to your people, engage with them, interact with them, that does not mean in a way that crosses your boundaries or that you're doing 24/7 or that like you owe it to everyone to be in your DMs constantly. Like I had some DMs that took me like a week to answer, but I show up, I answer, I engage, I'm there. I'm not like, don't talk to me, you know? You get to have whatever boundaries you want around it, but I think being willing to go there with people is very important right now. And I think that the conversation isn't how do we not like have to do that? It's like how do we do that while respecting ourselves, while respecting our boundaries? You know, I think that's really the thing. Um, so true, building connections and really having conversations and doing the things most people won't do is the thing. 100%. Um, I was saying that I'm in a mastermind with other business owners. It's called CEO Mama, and it's the person who runs it is Natalie Ellis from Boss Babe. She's amazing. And when I signed up to do it, it's a long story that's not worth telling, but basically, like, I had like this gut instinct of like, oh, I need like more mama energy. I had talked about it with my therapist, it was like a whole thing. And I saw CEO Mama, and I was just like, oh, yeah, that was like the universe delivering on exactly what I've been saying I needed. So I signed up, paid in full, had never talked to Natalie, knew nothing really about it, to be honest, was just like very like gut led, which is rare, by the way. Like, I'm not trying to say this is how people should buy, but what I wanted to say is the point Danielle made about doing the thing most people won't do is that after I did that, Natalie reached out to me and was like, hey, saw you paid in full, saw you didn't need a call, but like, let's just get on a call anyway. Like, let's just connect. I'm excited to get to know you and to have you in my space. And I remember saying that to her on the call, like, man, like so much respect for you, because that's just the thing most people won't do is like make the effort after they've already gotten the sale, build the relationship after they've already gotten the sale. And so I just want to say, like, everyone is doing this. Like, Natalie has an 8-figure business, and she's still like, let me go an extra mile to build that relationship. Let me do the thing other people won't do. And that's why she's really successful. And I just think we miss that so often, or we think we shouldn't, or we think there's something wrong with that, or we wouldn't do that, or like it's not worth our time, or like insert whatever thing. But the truth is, building relationships and connecting with your people is always worth your time, whether it gets you a sale, a referral, a share, you know, a piece of market research. Like, it is always worth your time. Any tips on how to respectfully deal with people who slide into your DMs and pretend to want to build connections where really they're just spammy and want to sell you? Yeah. I mean, what I would say is like, as soon as you know, like, this isn't genuine, like, this is just like someone's trying to sell to me, like, you don't owe anyone anything. So when I say like go build relationships in the DMs, like, I mean genuine ones. Like, if you're like, this is so obviously not a genuine one to me, feel free to bow out at any time. Like, that kind of stuff for me, I just won't even answer. Like, I'm like, that's a no for me. That's a boundary for me. And again, that's why I don't mind being in the DMs, because I'm always willing to like have the boundary and say no, or not, and not even say no, just like totally not even give it my time if it's not something that I know and feel is genuine. So I don't know if that helps. If you tell me if that answered your question, but if you're looking for something different there, happy to go deeper. Sarah says, so important to remember to keep building the relationships even after the sale has happened. Exactly. Deborah, you said following this too, but it's so annoying when you're live. It doesn't show me what you meant, like which comment you were maybe making that around. So tell me if there's something like more that you were asking that I could go deeper on. Love that your coach did that when you focus on relationships first, like the natural next step, right? Yeah, 100%. Like it's so like once you get in the habit, it's so natural to want to build that relationship, you know? But I think we have to see it as like good and promising and a smart strategy instead of like something we should be trying to scale out of is kind of the point, right? Oh, non-slimy DMs, yes. And I think like, you know, that kind of leads me to my next point is that I feel like more lifestyle content that really makes us feel connected to someone is going to be huge and is already huge. And it opens a conversation that can then lead to more. So, what I mean by that is not being afraid to kind of like show other pieces of yourself, which I think sometimes opens up conversations that form relationships in a not slimy way. So like this is just like such a silly example, right? But it's like, okay, can you show like your favorite coffee or something like that where someone can then reach out to you and be like, oh, that's my favorite coffee too, whatever. And it's like now we have an open door. We have this connection. We have open DMs together and like we can build on more for that. And I don't mean like, oh, you have to like strategically talk like message someone about liking Taylor Swift and that's your in to make the sale. I just mean like if we think about how most relationships start, it's with something simple, right? It's with something like personal like that, like, you know, a shared interest or like, oh, me too, or something like that. And so to start it online in the same way just makes a ton of sense, you know? So don't feel like that's wrong. It's not, it is how most relationships are built. And so I think sometimes we forget that like how we build relationships in the real world translates to how we do it online, and that's okay. So yeah, like let that be okay and show people that side of you. And also remember, you can show them that side of you without having to like show your entire life and everything you do all day and all the time. I think that's really important to remember too. That makes so much sense, way more intentionally. Yeah, so true. Like for me, I don't love sharing all the things. It just feels burdensome in some ways. But I have found that I used to be so rigid about that. It was almost like, oh, because I don't share my life on social, I don't share anything. And now I'm like, well, that's not true either. Like, there's like this much middle ground between like I share every element of my day and I share nothing. And I think leaning into finding that this year has helped me tremendously, both in just finding more ease around kind of like being on social and adjusting to that, but also in seeing more results. And so there really is such a big gap. And I think I had to definitely remember that last year. And I just want to like share that because you really can lean into like sharing more of your lifestyle without having everyone be like owning your whole life. Like that, it's so different, you know? But I do think more of the kind of like lifestyle content is going to go a much longer way. And I also think the personal content. Hey, Lucy. Oh, Lucy, I was actually going to send you a message. And so this is perfect. But I feel like speaking of crushing it, I've just been seeing you crush it on Instagram. And I wanted to tell you, like, kudos to you. You're doing amazing. Just celebrating you and really seeing how much you've like niched and been so clear and just like talking to the camera, like hitting those pain points, like just, yeah, saw you doing that and wanted to celebrate you. Hey, Lacey, happy New Year to you. Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, Lucy, maybe share your Instagram so people can see what I'm talking about, but she's just been crushing it. And now I have lost my train. Oh, I know. So yeah, the lifestyle piece. And then I think also people just want to feel connected to you. They want to feel like they know you as a person. And again, like you can do that with sharing like tidbits about yourself or little things, or even like, you know, I feel like since I've been doing reels more and people like are like, oh, I actually like know what some of the inside of your house looks like. I just feel like I know you so much better. And it's like nothing that felt like violating or super vulnerable or like I had to be on my phone 24/7. It's just like little things that make us feel more connected, I feel like are the biggest thing this year. I think we just want to feel that connection. We just want to feel that relationship. I think that's why a lot of people are talking about like just more talking heads, because we just want to like know someone and feel safe hiring them. Like that's something I talked about so much last year is like people are not feeling safety in making these hires. And so we have to find ways to create it. And some of those ways are just having them like talk to you, get to know you, hear you say something, watch your mannerisms, know what your office looks like, connect with you in that way. Like I really think that that's so trust building and so important. Um, and this doesn't mean don't give value, by the way, like definitely do. But remember that there are ways to give value that connect us versus separate us. I think for so long, there was so much like expert content that made people like, I'm up here on a pedestal and everyone else is down there. And it was very like disconnecting, even though it was like expert content. And I think that's what we're getting away from. We're not looking for the perfect expert who like holds themselves on a pedestal and us way over here. We're looking for someone who's like in it with us and gets us and who we resonate with and who we maybe have some shared experiences with and feel like we know them and can trust them versus like there's sort of this like perfect guru. I think that has really, really shifted, and is super important. Um, I think, okay, predictions. What else? Oh, I think another thing, well, this one's like an easy play to call, but uh, personally, I've been working on something behind the scenes with this too, but I just think so much more AI. Like at doing some of the work we're doing, like, could you ask a chatbot that was well trained the same question you would ask your business coach? Like, yeah. I think there's really something there, and I think that's going to change our industry in a big way. Will it all come to fruition this year? No. But I think we all have to start thinking about that and thinking about what that looks like and what that means. And I also think our competitive advantage against AI is personalization and personal support of a real human, because AI can do all the personalization too, right? So we like it's both moving in that direction and we have to double down on the direction that is not that, right? Which is that human to human relationship. But I feel like, for so long, our space was getting so far away from the human to human relationship in favor of just like kind of pumping out courses and stuff like that to people. Well, now AI can probably do a better job of that in some regard. And so we really need to lean back into like, well, what's my unique skill set that like Chat GPT can't match, or that I could even leverage into Chat GPT with my own spin on it? I think that we're going to see so much of that. And I think there's going to be two very different paths in some regard. Do you want to just like create a bot and sell it? Right? Or do you want to double down on like the human element? And there's going to be some forks in the road there for sure. Um, let's see. I haven't used a chatbot. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah. I saw someone that trained a chatbot to be the 80-year-old version of them and they would get advice from future them. Wait, Jess, that's fucking amazing. I love that. I've been like playing with training one. We'll see what happens, but I love that idea. Deidre says, so excited about all things AI. I've been using it in my business since 2017, way before it became a buzzword. I'm currently building my own AI platform. It's amazing what AI can do nowadays, but at the end of the day, what matters more is the people behind the tools. Yes, yes, yes. Seeing blind spots at AK, what they think their problem is versus what it actually is. Yeah, totally. Totally. Right. Like the chatbot can only work with the input you give it, where like a human can read so much more into like your body language and what you're saying and all of those things. And so there's definitely like so many different elements there, but I think that people will so significantly underestimate how much AI can do, how quickly, and how like well it will probably do most of these things. And I think we have to start thinking about that in our businesses, for sure. It's coming fast and furious. And I think, the more you can move with that, like flow down the river with it instead of trying to swim upstream, the better. You love it for SEO. Oh, that's awesome, Lucy. Hey, Brittany. Okay, I think that kind of leads me to another prediction. And again, none of these are like revolutionary, right? I think it's mostly coming off of a lot of the changes we saw last year, but it's like more craving for real support. And what I mean by that is like more high touch, less of the kind of like be in my energy or like come into my space and get supported by a bunch of people that aren't me, that kind of thing. Like, I think people really are seeing that like there is more value in real in-depth support from someone they can actually have a relationship and a connection with versus kind of like a guru coach or like a coach with like a huge following on Instagram kind of thing. Like, I really think that's shifting a lot. Um, I have something coming out at the end of this month that I'm so excited to share with you guys. And, it's kind of built on the philosophy and the principle that comes from therapy, which is like therapist client relationship. This is well studied. Like, therapist client relationship is the number one marker of success, right? It's not what type of therapy or what type of modality or whatever. It's like relationship. And I think that people are realizing that more and more with coaching. And I think that's what they're craving is like the real support, the in-depth, um, like perspective that someone else can bring to them that's so not just, ooh, if it's the right coach, I only need 3 minutes of her time and she'll help me figure everything out. Like that, no, that's not it. That's never been it. But I think that's like the model our industry built for a long time is this idea of like, if you could just get in front of the person that's like done what you wanted to do and they could like, give you 3 minutes of their time, then you'll have everything you need. And I just think that's such a flawed premise. I don't mean don't learn from people or don't take advantage of things like that, but I just mean that, the idea that like that's all you should ever need is totally not what real support is about. People are going to ask you for a coaching certification, right? Shantae, I do. I even like made it a whole thing about like, and this is why I will not create a coaching certification. But yes, thank you for saying that. Um, but yeah, I just think we're all craving like that real support and real, not meaning like anything is fake, but I mean like, oh, it really feels like support. Like it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm like clamoring for my chance to like hopefully ask a question. It feels like, oh, I feel supported. Like I can take a deep breath. I can relax into this. I really truly feel the support there as opposed to like, I'm like hoping to get a second of this person's time. Totally different things, right? Hey, Emma, tried posting under my business Facebook account, but it doesn't seem to be working. But wanted to make, oh, okay. But wanted to make the point that being real and connected online also comes with being vulnerable. Ooh, yes, and scary. Oh, I love that, Emma. Let's talk about that for sure. Shantae said, I agree with you. I had a client reflect to me that they want to give someone a spot in my business. And I feel like that reflection is reflective of what you're saying here. They feel deeply supported and want someone else to experience it with me. Yes, exactly, Shantae. It's like the feeling behind it. Like, yes, like the results and all of that are so important and so valuable, but it's like, what does it feel like to get this support? And then that is usually the magic that creates the results from there. I love that a client said that too. That's amazing. I totally agree, Emma. I think it is definitely more vulnerable. Like this is such a dumb example. So dumb, but I feel like everyone will resonate with this in some way. But I made this just a quick reel of me like eating lunch and I have text over it. And I realized like one of my little eyelashes is kind of like falling off in it. And I think I might have something in my nose. It's a little hard to tell. Was it just the angle? Is there really something there? And it just feels so vulnerable to be like, it's fine. I'll post that with like a thing in my nose, eating with my eyelash kind of hanging off. And I almost was like, oh, fuck it. I won't post that one. And then I was like, yes, I will. It's totally fine. But it's like, little things like that, I actually think you do have to like stretch. And that's such a small example. I mean, that's nothing compared to like, oh, sharing like, really vulnerable topics or whatever. But I guess my point is, I think you do have to really stretch yourself in some ways to create the kind of content that we're talking about creating. That's not like perfection, right? But is like connected and real and shows them who you really are and like really gives them a feel of you. And like the feel of me is like sometimes my eyelashes hanging off, and I don't look perfect and I have something in my nose, and like letting people see that is huge. Um, yes, thank you, Shante. Oh my gosh, totally. For me, it feels like the fear of being perceived, like that's how I personally relate to it, not that saying how you related to it. Yeah, totally. It feels so edgy as someone who is a perfectionist. Yeah, I think it is. It's super edgy. Lucy said I had a real pop off, and I turned to my boyfriend and said, I wish I had makeup on. A lot of people saw this. And he said, maybe no makeup is what people want. Ooh, yes, such good advice from him. But I think that's true to an extent, right? It's like, because everything is so curated and perfect, sometimes we're almost like thrown off when something isn't. And it makes us want to know more, go there more sometimes. It's just like interesting. I saw a reel that someone did, and they had like it was like like headphones like this kind of thing, and they were trying to talk into the speaker, but the headphones were like in this giant ball, and so it was like this kind of thing. And a bunch of people in the comments were like saying that that's almost what made them stop. They're like, oh my god, your headphones all wrapped up like that's what made me stop scrolling. Did you do that on purpose? And she was like, no, I just literally wanted to grab these and that was all I had to work with. And it's just so funny how like most of us would have taken the time to like unwind those or not use them or whatever. And as soon as someone is like, oh, okay, I'm like okay with that imperfection, that it like takes our attention. By the way, Lucy, this is not the comparable to you not wearing makeup at all, but like it just made me think of that. Um, hey, Emily. Oh, it's so good to see you. Um, okay. What else do I have? Let's see. Okay, last thing, which I feel like I've talked about a lot before, is having to get even more dialed into what you're doing and focused on. I think like to the point of like great content is being rewarded, that kind of stuff. Like I think being so clear who you're for, what problem you solve with them for them, obviously always important. Now more important than ever. I feel like everyone is seeing all of the social media that's like POV, you blah, 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 and then you find my account. Like I feel like those posts are like everywhere right now. But the point I want to make about that, and the reason those posts are doing well, and so many people are like trying to replicate them, is because what does so well about them is they are uber specific, and they can make someone go, oh, that's me. And you can elicit that reaction from someone where it's just like, oh, this is for me. You're talking to me like I feel seen or I feel found, right? And I think, we could get away with not having to be that specific before. But now I think it's such a thing. Like if you couldn't make one of those reels of like, POV, blah, 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 you find my account. If you're like, I have no idea what I would put in that. That's the work, is to figure out how can you get that specific there. Because if not, it's so hard to stand out in that kind of sea of noise, right? Yes, that makes so much sense. That's my biggest problem. Not 100% sure who I serve and how exactly I help them eat. Yes. Well, I mean, like the good news is what your biggest problem is. I always feel like that's the hardest thing to figure out in business. And once you know that, actually everything gets easier. So annoying that you have to go solve that problem, but like honestly, best case scenario is what it is and you get to go solve it. Just posted one of those just posted one of those reels. Jess said tried that reel and it kind of flopped, but wanted to experiment and it was really fun. So right. And like that's the thing too. Sometimes they'll totally like that's not like the best form of content, or you didn't get as specific as you could have there or whatever. It's like okay if those flop sometimes, but it's just the point of like, do you know what you would say in them? Right? It doesn't mean it has to take off, but do you know what you would say? And also, sometimes it's not going to, and that's fine. I think that's such a good exercise. I was actually thinking of like telling every one of my clients, like, you don't even have to post this, you don't even have to share it, but like, I want you to answer what would be your thing here? Because I think it's just such a good exercise, and how specific can you get? And I feel like that's what's needed to continue to grow. I think that's it. I'm trying to think of what my other things were. Done doing this now. Oh, yay. Okay, you'll have to share it with us. Just that it was so helpful. Yeah. Okay, we talked about long form content, we talked about relationships, DMs, conversations, lifestyle content, AI, real support, more dialed in. Okay, I think that's it. I feel like 2023 created a lot of problems, and 2024 is when we can solve them. 2023 was like, there's not a lot of safety and trust. What people are consuming is changing. How we interact with people is changing, how we interact with social is changing, like all of that kind of bubbled to the surface. And now 2024 is like, cool, let's go solve all of that. Like, let's create excellent content. Let's really build relationships. Let's be super clear and specific. Like all those business foundations that always matter. But I feel like in 2020 to 2022, the industry was popping so much that we could kind of get away with not having them. And now it's like back to basics. Like all of the shit that always mattered just is coming to the surface of mattering, like great communication and messaging, great relationship building, like it's just the thing. And so all of these foundations, I think, are what's going to really, really matter. And it's going to maybe separate out, quite honestly, the people who were only successful in the industry because the industry was popping, and the people who are going to stay successful, Lucy said, I'm not anti-auto messages on IG, but going back to personal connections, I had so many people say to me, oh gosh, you actually messaged me and not a bot. And I think that's helped me a lot these last couple of weeks. It's not sustainable long-term, but I noticed it. Yeah. Lucy, what we do is, I don't know if this is helpful, I'm just sharing, but I totally agree with you. What we've done in some of the ones that I've done with like ManyChat is in the message, we'll say like, hey, this is an automated message so it can get you this link as fast as possible. So this wasn't, sent for me, this was automated, but I'm here, I'm in my DMs all the time. Like if you have a question, shoot it back to me and let me know kind of thing. And that has, I think, bridged the gap a little bit where like, yeah, it's not super sustainable to like message everyone a link, but just letting them know you're there and it's open can be useful. So, but I totally agree with you. I think people are so amazed by like someone that's just like, hey, I just want to like share the link or just want to like make you feel important. I think that's some of it too. It's like, it just feels like you're making me important. And I think we're all craving that so much in so many ways. And it's just such an amazing thing to give that to someone. Yes, you're so welcome. Hey, Sarah. Thank you. All right. I think that's all I got. Does anybody have any questions or anything else? If not, we'll kind of wrap. But if there's anything you're like, oh, I wanted to hear you talk about this, or I wish I would have heard this. Michelle said, I actually asked my audience in stories what they preferred, aka getting the link fast, getting it from me personally, really interesting to see their responses. Well, what were their responses, Michelle? Don't leave us hanging. Shante said this was awesome. Thank you, Lacey. You're so welcome. Thank you guys for being here. I hope that this was helpful. I think like the good news is like none of this is revolutionary. None of this is crazy. Back to basics, Oh yeah, Lucy's gonna do that. Can you explain the POV reel again? I have no idea what it is. Yes, if Jess is on here, she could maybe share hers even too. But basically, it's like they didn't care. They said whatever was easiest for me. Ooh, Michelle, I love that. So it's basically like POV, you're a blank who blank and you find my account. So it could be like Jess's, I think was like you're a multi 6 or 7 figure business owner and you're looking for ways that your copy won't just connect, but will also compound for you. And then you find my account. So she was really talking to someone very specific who had this like very specific thing that they were looking for, desire. And then you find my account. So it's like kind of saying to them like, hey, you're in the right place. Follow me. Yeah. Okay, good. Everyone can share theirs too. I think Emma said she did one too. So Emma could share hers as well. There's Jess's. Yay. Yeah, it's good to see different examples of it too, because then you can be like, oh, this might be where it would apply to me kind of thing. Michelle said, I feel like a lot of my audience response is based off the fact that we're in the DMs chatting all the time. So in this specific case, they didn't really care how they received the link. I love that. Yeah, you're so good at building relationships. And so they're like, oh, we already have a relationship, whatever's easiest for you. It's almost like a friend. Like if your friend was like, oh, how do you want me to get this to you? You could just be like, whatever's easiest, right? Oh yeah, thank you for sharing that, Jess. That's such a good one. So Shannon McKinstry is so great. And so I think Jess shared her reel talking about it. So that's really good too. Oh yay, and there's Emma. Okay, amazing. Awesome, guys. Well, if you have more questions or if you watch the replay and you have questions, let me know. But thanks for being here. So happy to be back for my first of the new year, and I will see y'all next week. All right, bye guys.